Name me one billionaire that ever made $1 billion investing in gold. There isn't any. I can't name a single billionaire that will attest to actually owning $1 billion of gold. I can't name a single family out of 10,000 wealthy families that would ever say, well, we made billions of dollars and we bought $1 billion of gold. Okay. So, well, gold's defective. I could tell you why in 2 hours, but what does it matter? The point is we fixed it with Bitcoin. You can characterize Bitcoin as a digital currency. You can call it digital gold. You can call it digital cash. You can think of it as digital money. You can think of it as digital property. You can think of it as digital capital. You can think of it as digital energy. You can think of it as a digital asset.
This summary breaks down the key insights from a discussion with Michael Saylor, the executive chairman of MicroStrategy, on Bitcoin, its value proposition, and its place in the modern financial landscape. This analysis is designed to provide investors with a framework for understanding Bitcoin beyond the surface level and to appreciate its potential as a long-term investment. Michael Saylor emphasizes that understanding Bitcoin requires a shift in perspective. He cautions against getting caught up in labels like cryptocurrency, digital currency, or even digital gold without first defining the underlying concepts. These labels often carry preconceived notions that can hinder a true understanding of Bitcoin's potential. Saylor challenges the notion that Bitcoin is simply a digital currency meant to replace the dollar, euro, or yen. He argues that framing it this way inevitably leads to resistance from governments, central banks, and established financial institutions who see it as a threat to their power and control. The existing financial and accounting systems are deeply integrated with fiat currencies, making a direct replacement impractical. Saylor argues that gold is a dead asset, plagued by limitations that make it inferior to Bitcoin as a store of value and treasury asset. He challenges the conventional wisdom that gold is a safe haven in times of economic uncertainty. Saylor debunks the myth of the gold standard, arguing that it has never been as stable or effective as its proponents claim. He points out that many nations abandon the gold standard during times of crisis, demonstrating its inherent fragility. Before we delve into the video, if you want the latest crypto news, market updates, and expert insights from the top minds in the industry, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Stay informed, stay ahead, and never miss an opportunity in this ever-changing world of the financial market. Thank you for subscribing to our channel.
You can characterize Bitcoin as a digital currency. You can call it digital gold. You can call it digital cash. You can think of it as digital money. You can think of it as digital property. You can think of it as digital capital. You can think of it as digital energy. You can think of it as a digital asset. And it spawned out of the quote unquote cryptocurrency industry. So a person on inspection, if you've heard about it for a few minutes or an hour, your immediate reaction is cryptocurrency. Crypto is some kind of digital something. And currency, it must be a currency. And people go back and they say, well, it must be a currency because the front page of the white paper said a peer-to-peer, electronic cash system. And so most of all the debates and the criticism in this entire industry are just about semantics and words and interpretation of words. And oftentimes people will just hear one of those words, and based upon their life experience and what they learned in school or what they've learned in business, they will immediately come to a conclusion, which is either an economic opinion or a political opinion or an academic opinion, without first stopping to discuss what the words mean and even if the words are relevant. For example, peer-to-peer. Well, what's a peer? Well, a Bank of Japan is a peer of Bank of England, right? So maybe Satoshi meant it was a peer-to-peer system to move a monetary asset between the central banks or between commercial banks or between Apple and Google and corporations. And if you interpreted the peers as megacorps, mega commercial banks or countries, you would have a different view than, peer, that just means a consumer like me, and I want to send $5 to my friend, and that means Satoshi meant Bitcoin was to send $5 between 8 billion people peer-to-peer, right? And of course, if you think the latter, you have a totally different opinion of whether it works or doesn't work, versus if you think the former. So what's the definition of peer? Now, what's the definition of cash? Well, a lot of people think cash is the dollars in their pocket, or the fiat currency, $5 bills or $20 bills. And so they think peer-to-peer digital cash. Okay, well, I want to send $20 bills from person to person to buy coffee, because that's what I do with $20 bills. And so then it becomes a big debate. Well, obviously, it's not very good for buying coffee. A billion people can't buy coffee with it. It keeps changing in price, so it must not be a success. But of course, that hinges upon you redefining cash, or defining cash as fiat currency in small denominations. But of course, when the King of Spain wanted to finance the war in the Netherlands, he sent a fleet of ships with a bunch of gold in their holds to pay for the entire war effort. That was cash. That fleet washed up on the shores of Queen Elizabeth. She stole the gold. It bankrupted the Spanish-Netherlands war effort, and the result is a Protestant Netherlands, but is $1 billion of gold cash. And so when Satoshi said, well, peer-to-peer electronic cash, maybe what Satoshi meant was sending $1 billion of gold between the Bank of England and the Bank of Japan, or the Swiss bank, or Citigroup, or JP Morgan. Okay, well, if you interpreted the words that way, right? Cash is money, money cash. JP Morgan says gold is money, everything else is credit, right? If you interpreted cash as money and not credit, and peer-to-peer as any two counterparties, okay, well then maybe Bitcoin isn't digital currency at all, right? Digital currency, probably the best example of a true digital currency, or close to it right now, would be a tether, a stable coin. And if I could move a stable coin, $87 worth of it at the speed of light on a crypto rail, no KYC, no regulatory controls, with complete privacy, that feels like digital currency, completely private digital currency. Okay, so now if I say to you, well, do you like Bitcoin? And you think, oh, Bitcoin, the digital currency? Well, then you might very well answer like, a certain politician answered a few years ago, like, no, I like the dollar better. Okay, because you thought the Bitcoin was competing with the dollar, and you thought someone was asking you whether we're going to replace the dollar with Bitcoin. So if you think it's digital currency, and you think the euro, the yen, the dollar are currency, then the implication is, well, we're just going to replace the currency of your nation, whether it's the dollar, the euro, or the yen, or the CNY. We're going to replace it with Bitcoin. Now you end up with the entire establishment, every establishment politician, most bankers, most traditional economists pushing back and resisting it. And the politicians will resist it because nobody wants to collapse the dollar. It's a source of American strength. It's probably worth trillions of dollars a year to the US. So obviously we know why we like that if you're an American politician. On the other hand, if you're a classically trained economist, you say, oh, well, the dollar, it needs to be stable, and we need to be able to inflate the currency supply, and everything's priced in dollars. And so that's a reason for classical economists to dislike it and criticize it. And if you're an accountant, you would say, well, it turns out that every major corporation in the world has accounting systems, SAP, Oracle. They've spent more money in those accounting systems than almost anything else. I mean, a lot of big companies have spent billions and billions of dollars on accounting systems. They're all wired in euros and dollars and yen and CNY. And if you as CEO came along and said, hey, we're just going to replace our US dollar-based accounting systems with another system, the board of directors would fire you. The entire finance department would quit. All your shareholders would walk away from the stock. Probably your accountants would withdraw noisily, and your company would collapse. So that doesn't work. So you can see how simply by choosing the word digital currency, I will get a negative pushback reaction. Now, if I roll the word to digital gold, well, a lot of times you go to 1,000 rich families and you say, hey, do you like Bitcoin? It's digital gold. And they say, oh, well, that's interesting. I don't own any gold. Okay, name me one billionaire that ever made $1 billion investing in gold. There isn't any. I can't name a single billionaire that will attest to actually owning $1 billion of gold. I can't name a single family out of 10,000 wealthy families that would ever say, well, we made billions of dollars and we bought $1 billion of gold. Okay, so, well, gold's defective. I could tell you why in 2 hours, but what does it matter? The point is we fixed it with Bitcoin. Everybody can say, okay, well, so I suppose you fixed something I didn't like. It's a crappy commodity, and so good for you, but I don't own any. Okay, so that takes you a different path. Now, let's say we change it to digital property. Okay, well, you want to buy $1 billion of Bitcoin. Oh, it's digital gold. No, I'm not going to. They're going to 6102 me. I heard the government seizes gold when it gets to be too much. You think it's gold and you're afraid that the government will seize it because it backs the currency, because that's your historic mindset. If I say to a wealthy person, you want to buy $1 billion of property? Where? Miami Beach? Yeah, sure. How about New York? Yeah, sure. How about London? I guess so. How about $1 billion of digital property in the greatest city in cyberspace? Seems okay. If you went to Donald Trump and you said, hey, I'm going to invest $1 billion in digital property instead of physical property in LA, he'd probably say, yeah, that's fine. You know? So if you actually call it, and how many people say, oh, I'm a rich person, I bought $1 billion building in Miami Beach, but I'm worried the government's going to 6102 it. No, nobody ever said the government is going to 6102 my $1 billion building.
Michael Saylor's perspective on Bitcoin provides a valuable framework for investors seeking to understand this revolutionary technology. By looking beyond the surface level and embracing a digital property mindset, investors can appreciate Bitcoin's potential as a store of value, a hedge against inflation, and a foundational technology for the future of finance. While risks and challenges remain, Bitcoin's unique characteristics and growing adoption suggest that it is poised to play an increasingly important role in the global economy. By investing the time to understand Bitcoin, investors can position themselves to participate in this transformative trend.